Hello, my spooky friends. I am back, sorta. But before I get into that, I wanted to explain to you why I am doing this makeup today. This is a makeup from The Last of Us. Now, I didn't play the video game, but I am watching the TV series, and there are 6 stages of actual infection. There are the runners, which are ones that have the onset of the virus and the infection, which is the feverish skin, the blotchiness of the skin, and the bloodshot eyes. And I think that is kind of like universal to almost anything that you see when it comes to, dare I say it, zombies, infected, and The Last of Us. When it comes to the Stalker, which is the makeup I am doing, you see a little bit more of that iconic mushroom fungus that forms shelves that come and protrude throughout the skin. It even bloats the eyes a little bit more because it's getting into the brain. You might see a little bit coming out of the brain itself. But the one that everyone is the most familiar with is the clicker, because that takes the entire human part of the face away, except for the teeth up underneath. So you have that big balloon mushroom brain looking topper, and a little bit more of the human aspect is still in there, and then it transforms over into the bloater, and that's when all the extremities in the torso, along with a big clicker head, is acting like armor, and that's why it looks bloated. But also there is the scrambler, which is very similar to the bloater, but that has the ability to actually emit a toxic gas. And the last one is Rat King. Now, when it comes to special effects makeup, Barry Gower is the man. He is the one that's working on this TV series. And if you don't know who Barry Gower is, chances are you've seen some of his work with the Night King and the Game of Thrones, as well as Vecna from Stranger Things. But him and his entire crew is doing a fantastic job. So I'm going to leave the full-on bloater, scrambler, and the Rat King to see what he comes up with, because I think it'll be incredible, and stick to what I think most people are looking for. You can obtain this a little bit easier than some of the other makeup. So the Stalker is the one where not the full head blown clicker, but if you want to do that and you want to wear it as a mask for a Comic-Con or your next cosplay, do check the link down below, because I created a mask that's easy to wear and carry with you on such events. But today I'm going to get into this makeup and go back into what I said I am back, but sorta. And the reason why is because a lot of you know that I had to let go of my sweet baby boy Henry. I had him for 17 years, and in the middle of the grieving process, I got the news that my Papa Bear has cancer. I want to be available to him and not be in this time constraint of getting a video out every Friday. Because for 3 years I've been doing that, and I believe I missed 1 Friday out of 3 years. And even when it comes to Halloween, October, and the spooky season, I have been able to produce 2 to 3 more videos in that same week. But I am back, and it just might be every other week. So I hope you guys understand that, because I want to let you know, because I love being here with you guys. I don't see you as viewers or subscribers. I see you as friends that want to learn, create, and just hang out. I appreciate each and every one of you, because you are the reason why I do this. I'm going to quit talking and go straight into the makeup. I used air foam clay and liquid latex for this look, and I hope you enjoy it, so let's get into it. To make the base for my fungus, I am using a clear dry liquid latex and then sponging that onto a silicone sheet. I'll make sure that each layer is dry before I add another coat, and I use 3 layers for this because you do want this to be thin so it lays upon the skin without heavy edges. Now, if you don't have a silicone sheet, you can use a plate or a surface that is non-porous, so that's easier to lift once it dries. Moving on to the air foam clay, I'm using this for the other shape of cordyceps. This is for the long, skinny things that protrude out of this look. And I just pinch off a small bit of this. It doesn't take a lot to make a whole lot of shapes, so a little goes a long way. But when you're not using your air foam clay, you do need to secure it by covering it up so that it doesn't dry out. Now, you need to warm this clay up to make it very pliable. So I found out the best way to warm it up and to get rid of air bubbles is to stretch it away from myself. And in order to make these cordyceps shapes, I go through and pinch off a little bit and rolling that into a sausage, and then just using my fingers to create the shape at the top. And then also you can make these as long or as short or as thick or as thin as you need them to be. Just make several different kinds of shapes. Airfoam clay will require at least 24 hours to dry, and that just will depend on how thick that your pieces are. And here I am just moving them onto another surface to get them out of my way so that they can dry. Now that my liquid latex bases are dry, I'm doing the same thing by taking a little bit of airfoam clay, rolling that into a sausage and creating small different shapes, long, short, just stagger them throughout on these small little pieces, and also making sure that these dry. You can fine tune them once you get them onto the liquid latex, and then once they're dry, I go back in with about 2 more coats of liquid latex so that everything is cohesive and it dries as one piece. I am using alcohol paints to color the skin, using a little bit of dark brown, and up underneath those fungi shelves I push in a little bit of darker brown just to make it look like it's embedded more into the skin. And then once I do that, I go in with a little bit of white in order for those to pop off against the base. And then once that is on there, I go in with a little bit of yellow to bring the color in from the movie and from the game. And then after the yellow, I pop in a little bit of orange just on that edge, as you see it have more dimension. The other thing that's forgiving about this look is not only the shapes, it is the paint job actually that goes with it, because different skin tones will make these things look a little bit different. And there are also the orange and the browns and the grays and the pinks. So have fun with the color. And with the cordyceps, I'm going through and I'm doing the same color treatment with the stems being yellow and a little bit of yellow and orange at the top. Now once everything is dry, I go in with some flour and remove it from my silicone base. This is also going to help it from sticking to itself, so be sure to dust it on both sides. And then with plastic up over my head cast, I go in and create a shape that I want this prosthetic to be. Being mindful for where the eye is going to sit, and then I sponge on liquid latex, 3 coats, making sure each dries in between. I then use bigger shapes of airfoam clay to put the fungus up over this base because I want it to form around the skull so it's protruding out and it has a better fit to form. I then go in with some small strips of cotton and liquid latex up over the outer edge, and also put in some little squiggly things in between to make the design a little bit more interesting and show that this fungus has really overtaken and starting to protrude out of the brain. Once everything has dried, I then go in with another layer of liquid latex, and I used about 3. And then it's time to cut out a piece for the eye, and I'm using an eye that I made from polymer plastic. This comes from the tutorial of the hanging eyeball. This is a piece that I did not use that I thought would be a great look for this, to go off according to the game, where the eyes become a little bit more bloated because of the transition of this fungi. So I'm using liquid latex to secure it to the piece I already created, and then I go back over with a little bit more liquid latex, and to show that it's real protrusion, I then use some cotton and liquid latex pieces to get that secure and into place. Using more alcohol paints, again this is the same skin Illustrator palette that's alcohol activated, I go in and start to color and really model up some of the textures, starting with a base and then darkening up things that are up underneath, because if it's light on it, it casts a shadow, so you'll have depth up underneath that. So I go in with the brown, and I also go back through with the other alcohol palette and put in a little bit of the yellow, and then mix that in with some browns, and then tap the orange around on the edges for added depth and dimension. Now it's time for the application, and because I don't want to add this prosthetic piece on first because it will hinder my ability to see, I did map out its outline with a light colored eyeliner, and I'm going in with some spirit gum for a better hold, and I place the other pieces down starting at the top and making sure to push that to get all the air bubbles out as I move on to the skin. Now I'm not too concerned about the edges at this point. I'm just going to secure them to make sure everything stays in place and continue to add the other pieces randomly what fits. So it is a lot of spirit gum, application, and repeat. I do want some of these pieces to be onto the body and off of the neck, and this is my infamous zombie shirt with the hole in it, so I just pushed that piece up underneath, applied liquid latex to the edge, and with this tip from Chris Alex, I did the same thing, but adding liquid latex on around the edge and painting that black to make it look like it's coming up out of the shirt. Now to hide and secure edges, I'm going over this with cotton and liquid latex, being sure to protect the hair and the eyebrows, and just randomly placing this onto the piece to make it look like that cordyceps is running completely wild throughout the skin, and there is the black onto the shirt to give it depth and make it look like it's coming out. And in order to protect my other eye, I'm using medical tape and cotton batting. Also, this is going to make it feel a lot more comfortable. And then it's time to take my hair down because this piece is required to go up over. So with a little bit of gel and a couple of bobby pins to secure that into place. I do have spirit gum on the skin for this prosthetic piece, but this is going to give it a good hold and also let it look like it's coming up out of the brain. And in order to secure more edges and to hide gaps, I go in with leftover liquid latex and cotton pieces that I've used with other looks, and this is also going to fill in the gap between the bridge of the nose. If you don't have these already made, just use cotton and liquid latex and fill in those gaps. Once everything has dried, I then go in with some cream paint and go ahead and model up the skin just to give it some texture. And also, if you don't have cream paint, you can use foundation, different kinds of foundation. You can add a little bit of pigment from eyeshadow to change that foundation color. Just make sure that they're matte shadows and no shimmer. With a red lip liner, I go in and to create irritation around the eye, upper and the lower lid, a little bit around the mouth, and some up around the nose. And if you don't have this, you can use red eyeshadow. To make the skin look more sickly, I am using a gray grease paint and just blotting that all over, making sure that those lips are a little bit pale, and again showing you that you can use some red eyeshadow and some brown in order to go in and add some more dimension to make the skin look sick and to contour the top of the hairline. So you see that you can use many forms of products, cream, grease, alcohol, and eyeshadow to achieve this same look. It is then time to add the other cordyceps, and I do that by using liquid latex to secure that onto the prosthetic and move those pieces around. Don't be afraid to lift them high and stack them up, it will add dimension. And in order to hide anything else and to give that fuzzy fungus look to it, I'm tapping in liquid latex in between some of the design and around the edges with a little bit of cotton. I also do that for the chest pieces, moving in between and on the outer edges. To make that eye glossy, I use a little bit of Vaseline, but I also have the hair gel, and with a little bit of that, I go in around the eye, pushing that onto the prosthetic, and a little bit around the nose in order just to make it look gelatinous and gross as possible. So here is the final look. I hope you guys enjoyed this one today. It's a very fun look to do, and it was also good to be able to create and get out of my head because, as you know, things have been difficult for me and they're about to get even more difficult. But one thing that interests me about this is people that play the game versus people that just watch the show. Are you a fan of the show? Are you a fan of both the game and the show? And what do you think the differences are, or what could be improved upon in this storyline? Let me know in the comments below. But if you're having fun and you'd like to see more looks like this, please hit that subscribe button. And now that you've mastered the stalker look, why not hang out for this next video where I create a clicker mask that's comfortable to wear. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.